Sometimes in life, we chase achievements like footprints in dry sand. We want proof that we were here, that what we did mattered, that someone will look back and say, yes, he walked this path. But the truth? The wind doesn't ask permission before wiping the prints away. The world moves on. Even our biggest victories eventually fade into the wider landscape of time. And yet, the journey still changes us, and that is what remains. Welcome to Sleepy Zen's story. Allow your breath to slow, like sand settling after a long, gentle sweep of the wind. Let your shoulders fall. Let the night make room around you. Let your thoughts loosen their grip on the day. Tonight, we walk a path where the footprints fade, not to erase your story, but to show you how deeply the journey shapes the person walking it. The desert at night is nothing like the desert of day. In the sun, it is harsh, demanding, loud in its silence. But under the moon, it becomes an entirely different world. Cool wind drifts low across the dunes, brushing the surface into soft waves that catch the pale silver light. The sky stretches wide and open, endless, unbroken, like a promise made by the universe itself. You step forward barefoot, feeling the sand warm from the day, but slowly cooling beneath your skin. Each step makes a shallow imprint, temporary. Sometimes in life, we chase achievements like footprints in dry sand. We want proof that we were here, that what we did mattered, that someone will look back and say, yes, he walked this path. But the truth? The wind doesn't ask permission before wiping the prints away. The world moves on. Even our biggest victories eventually fade into the wider landscape of time. And yet, the journey still changes us. And that is what remains. Welcome to Sleepy Zen Story. Allow your breath to slow, like sand settling after a long, gentle sweep of the wind. Let your shoulders fall. Let the night make room around you. Let your thoughts loosen their grip on the day. Tonight, we walk a path where the footprints fade, not to erase your story, but to show you how deeply the journey shapes the person walking it. The desert at night is nothing like the desert of day. In the sun, it is harsh, demanding, loud in its silence. But under the moon, it becomes an entirely different world. Cool wind drifts low across the dunes, brushing the surface into soft waves that catch the pale silver light. The sky stretches wide and open, endless, unbroken, like a promise made by the universe itself. You step forward barefoot, feeling the sand warm from the day but slowly cooling beneath your skin. Each step makes a shallow imprint, temporary, imperfect, real. The desert doesn't ask you to be strong. It simply asks you to be here, to walk, to breathe, to listen. And you do. A soft echo travels through the dunes, like the earth exhaling after holding its breath for too long. You are alone, yet not lonely, accompanied by the wind, the night, and the quiet strength that grows only when the world finally stops asking for something from you. A slow breeze moves past your face, warm then cool, shifting directions with no urgency and no pattern. It carries grains of sand in a thin, drifting veil, like the desert is constantly reshaping itself, never holding on to a single form for too long. You kneel, placing your hand just above your last footprint.
You watch as the wind erases it, effortlessly, without force, without intention. Just movement, just nature being nature. And in that moment, a quiet truth settles inside you. Not everything you do must remain to be meaningful. Some of your greatest acts will vanish. Some of your kindest moments will be forgotten. Some of your hardest battles will never be seen. But you felt them. You lived them. You grew from them. Your worth isn't measured by what remains, but by what changed inside you along the way. The wind swirls again, brushing your hair, as if nodding in quiet agreement. You reach into your small satchel and pull out a lantern, simple, metal-framed, with thin paper sides and a warm little flame flickering inside. It isn't bright, not against the grand expanse of the desert, but it illuminates the space around you with a gentle glow, soft and comforting. You raise it slightly, and the light creates a halo across the sand, revealing faint ripples in the dune surface, like memories etched into the desert's skin. The lantern doesn't help you see far, it only helps you see enough. And that's the deepest lesson it offers. You don't need the entire path to be clear. You only need light for the next small step. You walk forward again, holding the lantern near your chest. Its warmth touches your skin, syncing with your heartbeat. The path doesn't worry you anymore. You no longer demand certainty. You trust the glow you have, and that trust becomes its own kind of guidance.
After some time, you reach the top of a high dune, the largest one you've climbed tonight. From this height, the desert stretches infinitely in every direction, a sea of shadows and silver drifts. Nothing marks where you came from. Your footprints are gone, swallowed by the soft, shifting wind. For a heartbeat, you feel the old instinct rise, that anxious tug that says, if no one can see your path, did it even matter? But beneath that worry, something truer settles. The desert remembers nothing, and somehow that frees you. You sit at the top of the dune, letting your body relax completely into the sand. The wind wraps around you like a loose cloak. Your lantern glows gently beside you. You realize you don't need a trail of footprints behind you. The story you carry within you is enough. The growth, the courage, the quiet moments you lived deeply, they are not lost just because they aren't seen. They shaped you. That is their mark, and it doesn't fade. The sky above you looks almost impossibly still, a vast sheet of quiet midnight blue stretching from horizon to horizon, untouched, unmoving, ancient. But when you look closer, you notice something subtle. The stars are not loud, yet they are steady, each one holding its place with a patience that feels older than memory itself. You breathe in slowly, letting the cool desert air fill your lungs. Your heartbeat slows, your eyelids soften. It feels as if the sky is watching you without expectation, not demanding growth, not demanding progress, not demanding anything at all.
And that alone brings a strange comfort. Because so often in life, you've been pushed by invisible timelines, by the pressure to rush, to catch up, to be ahead, to prove something. But here, under this enormous sky, you realize something powerful. The universe is in no hurry, and neither should you be. You tilt your head back, letting the lantern's warm glow brush lightly against your chin. The stars shimmer faintly, not guiding you, not steering you, just existing. And their quiet presence reminds you that sometimes the most profound kind of progress comes when you stop rushing toward the next moment and simply stay with the one you're in. The sky waits. It has always waited. And now, for the first time in a long time, you let yourself wait too.
You draw a slow circle in the sand beside you, your finger carving a smooth curve around the lantern's base. The grainy texture brushes gently against your skin, warm at first, then cool as the deeper layers meet the night air. The circle means nothing. It has no purpose, no deeper message. It is simply a shape. And yet, making it feels strangely grounding. You think of the moments in your life when you created things that didn't need to last. A laugh shared late at night. A kind word given to a stranger you'd never see again. A small act of courage that no one witnessed. All of them temporary, all of them real, all of them still living in the quiet spaces of who you became. And as your finger completes the circle, the wind drifts by and begins to soften the edges. The shape blurs, loosens, fades. But you don't feel loss, you feel release, because the truth becomes clear. Not every memory is meant to remain sharp. Some are meant to dissolve so you can grow past them. The wind erases half the circle, but the warmth it left in your chest remains. A sudden breeze brushes against your lantern, making the small flame inside flicker dangerously to one side. For a moment, you worry it will extinguish, swallowed by the vastness of the desert night. But then, the flame steadies. It straightens. It returns to its soft, gentle glow. You watch it with a sense of quiet awe. Even the smallest flame in the middle of a world this big can hold its own. It doesn't roar, it doesn't grow, it doesn't dominate, it simply refuses to disappear. And you realize the lesson it's offering. Strength is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to stay lit despite it. You lift the lantern gently, letting the warm light shine against your palms. Its glow illuminates only a small circle of sand, yet it feels enough, more than enough. Because you don't need a blazing fire to keep going. You just need an honest flame, steady, humble, willing to continue even when the darkness around it grows wider. You hold the lantern closer to your chest, letting it warm you from the outside in. The darkness remains vast, endless, unbroken.
And yet, you no longer feel overshadowed by it. Your light doesn't challenge the night, it coexists with it. And that harmony gives you peace.
You rise slowly from the sand, rushing off the grains that cling to your clothing. Your lantern hangs gently from your fingertips, swaying with each breath you take. Ahead of you lies nothing. No visible path, no marks, no signs. Just desert. Just possibility. You step forward, and your foot sinks lightly into the sand, creating a fresh print, perfect and untouched for a moment before the wind begins to smooth it. You take another step, and then another. With each movement, the path appears beneath you. Not before. Never before. You exhale deeply as the realization settles in your chest. You are not meant to see the path before you walk it. You are meant to create it by walking. So many times in life, you waited for clarity, waited until you felt ready, until everything made sense, until the road revealed itself. But here, in this vast desert, you see the truth. The road isn't shown, it's formed. You inhale slowly, letting that understanding anchor inside you. The lantern glows softly against your side, guiding your next step, but never revealing the entire journey. And for once, that feels right. It feels freeing. It feels like trust. You walk on. As you continue across the dune, a faint echo begins to follow you. Soft, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat drifting through the night air. You slow your steps, listening carefully, letting the sound wash over your awareness. It isn't loud, it isn't urgent, it's simply steady. And then you understand. The sound is coming from within you, your heartbeat amplified by the wide open silence of the desert. It feels strange at first, hearing yourself so clearly, without the noise of the world drowning you out. Without distractions, without expectations, without responsibilities tugging at your attention. Just you. Just your breath. Just your heart. And it feels grounding. You place a hand on your chest, feeling the slow, deep rhythm beneath your fingertips. That beat has carried you through everything, every fear, every joy, every uncertain moment, every quiet victory no one else noticed. It has been loyal to you. It has never stopped for a single moment. And yet, how rarely you pause to listen to it. Under the moonlit sky, you listen. And for the first time in a long while, you truly hear yourself.
You pause at the crest of a dune, letting the lantern hang loosely by your side. The moonlight spills gently across the sand, illuminating the trail of footprints behind you. A delicate chain of impressions slowly softening under the desert wind. They look fragile now, temporary, fading with every passing moment. You turn toward them not out of regret, but curiosity. Each step you took carries a memory, a breath, a choice, A moment when you decided to continue despite not knowing what waited ahead. And now, watching them disappear grain by grain, you realize something powerful. You don't need your footprints to remain for the journey to matter. So much of your life has been spent trying to leave a mark, to be remembered, to be validated, to be seen. Yet here, the desert teaches you that meaning doesn't depend on permanence. It depends on presence. The wind blows softly, smoothing out another footprint until it blends seamlessly with the untouched sand. You feel no loss, no sadness, only release. Because you are not defined by what you leave behind. You are defined by the courage it takes to keep moving forward. You face the horizon again, your lantern warm against your palm, and take another gentle step into the unknown, not to be remembered, but simply to be. As you walk, something tiny glints in the lantern's glow, a single grain of sand catching the light like a microcosm of a star. You kneel down, letting the lantern's warmth spill onto your hands as you lift the grain onto your fingertip. It's so small, so insignificant, yet the way it sparkles makes you pause. One grain among millions, one tiny speck in an endless desert, and yet here it is, reflecting the entire lantern flame, mirroring the moon, holding the night sky within its tiny shape. You breathe slowly, marveling at the simplicity of it, the way something so small can hold something so vast. Then the lesson settles quietly inside you. You don't need to be large to carry light. You just need clarity. You let the grain fall back into the sand. It disappears immediately, swallowed by the dunes. But the impression it leaves inside you lingers like a soft echo. Your life is built from thousands of small moments like this, fleeting, delicate, easily missed. But within each one lies something infinite. You stand, lantern steady, and continue walking with a gentler heart. You climb a low dune, the sand shifting under your feet in slow, whispering waves. When you reach the top, you stop, lantern held at your side, breathing in the wide open space around you. Up here, the silence is even deeper, almost like a voice in itself. Not empty, not cold, but full, rich, spacious. You close your eyes, letting it wash over you, letting the quiet press gently into the spaces between your thoughts. And then you hear it. Not a sound, a realization. Silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything you've been too busy to notice. You stay there for a long moment, letting the night fill you, letting your breath slow, letting your heart soften. The stars above you shimmer like wise, patient witnesses. The dunes below curve like gentle, sleeping waves, and the lantern in your hand glows warm and steady, grounding you in the present. When you open your eyes, you feel lighter, not because something was added, but because something unnecessary finally fell away.
After a while, the dunes ahead soften into gentler shapes, as if the desert itself has decided to unclench. The moon drifts lower, turning the horizon into a faint silver line, and the air cools enough that each breath feels like a quiet blessing. The traveler slows their steps, noticing how the sand loosens around their ankles, no longer pulling, no longer resisting, just allowing. And in that subtle shift, something becomes clear. Maybe the path was never supposed to carry certainty, only honesty. The traveler looks back once more, watching the final few footprints dissolve behind them. There is no panic in the erasure now, no need to cling. Only the soft understanding that what disappears behind us often frees what can appear before us. And so the traveler keeps walking, unhurried, letting the night shape their next steps as gently as a sculptor smoothing clay.
As the desert grows quieter, something unexpected rises through the stillness, a faint, distant echo, returning not to be heard, but to be felt. The traveler pauses, letting the echo settle into their chest like a stone dropped into water. For the first time in a long time, they aren't trying to decode the world around them. They're simply letting it reach them. And in that openness, the echo reveals its simple secret. Some answers appear only when we stop questioning the silence. The traveler exhales slowly, their breath leaving a thin trail that vanishes in an instant. It's enough. It's always been enough. The moonlight begins reflecting on thin ribbons of sand. The traveler sees them, realizing they form a natural path, not carved by footsteps, not marked by signs, but shaped by the way the dunes fell earlier that evening. A path that only appears at night. A path daylight would flatten, disguise, or erase entirely. And that quiet truth settles into the traveler's mind. Sometimes clarity arrives only when brightness steps aside. Sometimes the night reveals what the day hides. They follow the moonlit trail, feet sinking into the cool sand, with a softness that feels like being carried rather than walking. Nothing around them rushes. Nothing demands, nothing insists. It's as if the desert has shifted from a place to cross into a place to understand. After a while, the traveler notices something glowing faintly near their hand. A small lantern, its flame soft and steady. They don't remember picking it up. They don't remember lighting it. Yet there it is, warm and unwavering. Its light gentle enough not to disturb the darkness, yet strong enough to guide the next few steps. The traveler smiles, not because they finally have a source of light, but because the lantern feels familiar, as though it had always been with them, waiting for the moment they stopped racing the darkness. And in this realization, the traveler understands the softest light is often the one we carry within ourselves, unnoticed until silence makes room for it. They lift the lantern slightly, and the shadows around them soften like curtains being drawn aside.
A slow, warm breeze rises, brushing against the traveler's cheek like a greeting. It carries the scent of distant stone, cool minerals, and the faintest trace of something sweet. Maybe dried sage, maybe desert flowers that bloom only under moonlight. Whatever it is, the wind feels deliberate, almost aware. It circles the traveler gently, as if recognizing them, as if welcoming them. And then, for a brief moment, the traveler senses an unusual feeling. The wind isn't pushing them or pulling them. It's simply staying beside them, matching their pace, respecting their rhythm. It feels almost like companionship. And the traveler realizes that not everything that moves around us is meant to move us. Sometimes the world simply walks with us, quietly, until we're ready for the next step. The traveler moves deeper into the moonlit sands, and something subtle begins to change beneath their feet. Each step becomes softer, gentler, as though the desert itself is cushioning their weight. The footprints appear for a moment and then fade almost instantly, not from wind, not from distance, but the sand choosing not to hold them. It feels like walking through a place that refuses to burden itself with memory, a place that understands how heavy it is to carry what no longer matters. And in that quiet surrender, the traveler realizes that not every moment of our life needs to leave a mark. Some steps are meant only for passing through, never for preserving. With that understanding warming their chest, they keep walking at the same unhurried pace, trusting that the path ahead will reveal itself exactly when they are ready to meet it. The traveler eventually reaches a tall, sloping dune that rises like a gentle wave frozen beneath the star-filled sky. As they climb, the sand shifts softly around their ankles, slipping away without resistance, never trying to cling or shape their stride. It simply moves aside, welcoming each step without needing to remember it. At the top, the traveler pauses, and the desert wind brushes past, warm, patient, almost curious. It feels as though the dune itself is listening, not to words, but to presence. And yet, even as it listens, it holds nothing, no imprint, no echo, no story about who stood there and why. The realization settles in the traveler's chest like a calm breath. The most peaceful moments in life are the ones that let us arrive exactly as we are, without trying to define us. Up there, with the moon watching in absolute stillness, the traveler understands that true freedom comes from being heard without being held, seen without being shaped, welcomed without being weighed down. And so they descend the dune slowly, letting the sand erase their passage, as if to say, "You may go on lightly now." The traveler walks deeper into the moonlit desert, letting the night settle inside them, the way dew settles on a silent stone. After a long stretch of quiet steps, something unexpected happens. They simply stop walking. There is no reason, no thought, no decision. Their feet pause on their own, as if the earth beneath them whispered, "Stay here for a moment."
At first, the traveler tries to understand why, but the stillness softens that impulse, dissolving it gently like warm sand slipping through a loose hand. Instead, they breathe, and the night breathes with them. In that pause, they notice things they missed, the faint echo of wind swirling between distant dunes, the subtle shift of temperature as the moon rises higher, the soft pulse of their own heartbeat aligning with the rhythm of the desert. And a quiet truth rises. Sometimes the journey guides us by asking us to move, and sometimes it guides us by asking us to stop. The traveler stands there a little longer, letting the unknown feel safe, realizing that not every pause needs an explanation. Some pauses are invitations to rest, to notice, to simply be. And when they start walking again, their steps feel lighter, as though the earth itself has agreed to carry part of their weight.
As the traveler continues, the horizon stretches forward, endless and unreachable, a thin silver line where moonlight touches sand. It feels both distant and intimate, like a promise spoken softly but never fully clarified. The traveler keeps glancing at it, not out of longing but curiosity. The horizon seems to whisper, not in words but in half-thoughts, the kind that sit just beneath understanding. Thoughts like the quiet certainty that it's okay not to know where a path will lead, that moving towards something undefined can still be meaningful. The traveler walks with these half-thoughts, letting them drift in and out like a conversation with the night itself. Each whisper feels like a small release, a thought they don't need to finish, a question they don't need to answer. And with each release, the horizon seems to glow a little brighter. Not because the traveler is getting closer to it, but because they are finally walking without burden. The desert wind shifts and carries a soft reminder. The value of a journey isn't measured by how clearly we see the destination, but by how gently we meet each step. And with that, the traveler continues forward, guided by whispers instead of certainty.
Night deepens, and the moon casts a long, soft shadow beside the traveler. It moves when they move, stops when they stop, stretches when they stretch. And yet, it never tries to lead or fall behind. It simply accompanies. For a while, the traveler watches their shadow glide across the sand, sometimes tall, sometimes faint, sometimes barely visible. They begin to realize the shadow reflects something true. Not every part of us needs attention, correction, or interpretation. Some parts simply walk with us. Not as lessons, not as burdens, not as proof of anything, just presence. The traveler feels a strange comfort then, noticing that their shadow exists without judgment, without story, without expectation. It does not demand improvement. It does not compare. It is a quiet companion, a reminder that not everything within us needs to be solved. Some things only need space to exist. And in that peaceful acceptance, the traveler finally stops trying to be perfectly understood. They let their shadow be a shadow, themselves be themselves, and the journey be whatever it needs to be. A gentle desert wind rises, carrying grains of cool sand around the traveler's ankles. It feels familiar somehow, like a scene faintly remembered from a dream or childhood moment lost in time.
The traveler pauses and closes their eyes. The wind brushes against their skin again, soft, deliberate, almost like a memory returning. It doesn't bring a clear picture or a specific event. Instead, it returns a feeling, the ease of breathing without hurry, the comfort of existing without performance, the simplicity of being carried by something larger than effort. The traveler realizes they have felt this before, in quiet mornings long ago, in moments when life wasn't pushing or pulling, but simply flowing around them. The wind carries a truth that doesn't need to be spoken. Sometimes the things we think we forgot are still within us, waiting for the right silence to rise again. And the traveler walks on, a little more whole, not because the wind restored anything, but because it reminded them nothing important was ever lost. The traveler finds a smooth stone, half buried in the sand, still warm from a sun that disappeared hours ago. They kneel, place a fingertip on its surface, and feel heat radiating gently, as if the stone is holding on to the memory of daylight. The warmth surprises them, not just because it lingers, but because it comforts. The traveler realizes the stone is doing something quietly profound. It doesn't cling to the sun's heat, nor does it release it all at once. It simply lets the warmth fade naturally, at its own pace, without resistance. And in that softness, the traveler sees a reflection of how emotional warmth works within us. Moments that touched us deeply don't vanish when the light changes. They linger for a while, comforting us as we move into new chapters. The stone teaches without speaking. It is okay to hold warmth a little longer. It is also okay to let it fade when it's ready. The traveler arises, feeling gratitude for a stone that doesn't speak, doesn't move, yet somehow knows how to teach. The traveler climbs a gradual ridge, and when they reach the top, the desert opens wide beneath them. Vast, unhurried, timeless. Something in that view dissolves the tightness they didn't realize they were carrying. For the first time in a long while, tomorrow feels gentle, not demanding, not heavy. Just another horizon that will arrive when it's ready. The traveler sits on the ridge with legs crossed, breathing slowly, sensing that in this quiet space, tomorrow has no authority. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it doesn't need to rush them. The desert sky holds both the moon and the promise of dawn, and neither argues for attention. They coexist in silence, and the traveler finally understands. Life becomes lighter when tomorrow isn't treated like a deadline, but like a guest that will knock softly when it arrives. The traveler stands again, letting the ridge's wisdom settle inside, steady, calm, unforced. As the traveler walks down from the ridge, they look back and notice something subtle. Their recent footprints are already fading. The wind smooths them out with a gentle sweep, not erasing them out of disregard, but making space for the next steps. The sight brings a soft relief. The traveler realizes that not everything we do needs to linger, and not every impression we leave needs to last. Some moments are meant to be temporary, so we can remain flexible, so life can stay open, so the next experience can find room to arrive. They walk on, watching the desert quietly undo each step behind them. Instead of feeling erased, they feel liberated, unbound from the need to leave a mark. The present moment welcomes them more fully now, because there is nothing trailing behind that demands to be followed. Further into the desert night, The traveler reaches a large open field of untouched sand, so smooth it looks like a held breath. When they step into it, an unusual stillness settles around them, so complete it feels like the world is listening. Not for words, not for meaning, just for presence. The traveler stands inside that silence and senses something profound. Stillness can speak in ways that sound never could. It can remind us that peace isn't found by chasing quiet, but by allowing ourselves to rest within it. In that moment, the traveler feels guided, not by a voice, but by the absence of one. Silence becomes a teacher, gentle and precise, offering the one message the traveler most needed. You are allowed to stop searching for a moment. And so they breathe, long, slow, steady, letting the silence surround them like soft fabric, warm and undemanding. The traveler finds an old lantern half buried in the sand, its glass dusty, its metal dim from time. Instinctively, they lift it, expecting the familiar urge to spark a flame inside. But tonight, something feels different. The lantern seems almost complete in its quiet state, needing nothing more than to simply exist. The traveler runs their thumb along its cool surface and notices how the moonlight slips into the lantern. Soft, patient, effortless. And suddenly they understand. Not every source of guidance has to shine brightly. Sometimes the gentle glow of what already surrounds us is enough. The lantern becomes a mirror for this truth. Its emptiness isn't a lack, but a reminder that clarity doesn't always require effort. The traveler breathes deeply, realizing they have spent so long trying to ignite answers inside themselves, when often the answer was already illuminated by the world around them. They place the lantern back in the sand, bowing their heads slightly, grateful for a light that didn't need to burn to teach.
As the traveler moves again, a memory emerges quietly, one they weren't trying to recall, one that floats upward like a leaf rising on a gentle draft. It's not vivid or complete. It comes as a feeling more than a picture. A moment from years ago when someone spoke to them with patience during a time they were rushing. The memory doesn't arrive to pull them backward, but to remind them that kindness has touched their life more often than they admit. The traveler lets the memory linger, soft and warm, without trying to grasp it. It reminds them that the past doesn't always visit to haunt or bind. Sometimes it comes to soothe, to tell us we have been cared for. We have been understood, even in ways we didn't notice at the time. And when the memory fades again, it leaves behind a tenderness that makes the night feel even more welcoming. The traveler continues walking, feeling accompanied by something gentle, something unspoken. The traveler climbs a tall dune and sits near its peak, letting the sand shift slightly beneath their weight. The dune curves around them like a shoulder, almost as if it's leaning in to listen. The traveler begins thinking about mistakes, about fears, about the parts of themselves they usually hide. But the dune remains still, offering no reaction, no correction, no critique. And in this calm, the traveler discovers a rare kind of comfort, being witnessed without being evaluated. The dune teaches a silent truth. Some spaces in life exist simply to hold our thoughts without reshaping them, not to fix, not to guide, not to understand, just to be there. The traveler releases a slow breath, feeling lighter for being allowed to think without pressure. When they rise again, the dune shifts a little under their feet, as if bowing, as if saying, "Your thoughts are safe here." And that small acknowledgement, imagined or real, strengthens something soft inside the traveler. The traveler looks up and finds a single bright star standing alone in the vast sky. They watch it for a long time, half expecting it to fall like countless shooting stars they've seen before, but it doesn't. It stays fixed, unwavering, steady, and something about its stillness strikes the traveler deeply. They realize they have been conditioned to wait for things to move, to change, to break open into spectacle. But this star teaches another form of beauty, the kind that stays, the kind that doesn't need to dazzle to matter. The traveler feels a quiet admiration for this star that shines simply because it exists, not because it performs. In its steadiness, the traveler finds a truth. Not all meaningful things are dramatic. Some are gentle constants, guiding from afar. And they feel grateful for every steady presence in their life, past or present, that never needed to fall to be noticed. As the desert cools further, a flowing current of air sweeps across the sand, moving like an invisible river. It wraps around the traveler, brushing against their clothes, gliding across their face. The wind doesn't roar or howl. Instead, it murmurs, as though carrying the unspoken thoughts of countless travelers who walked this land before. The traveler closes his eyes and listens, not to words, but to the texture of the wind itself. It feels like a reminder that every person who ever doubted, breathed, hoped, feared, or paused has contributed to the quiet wisdom of the world. The traveler feels held, not by a crowd, but by the collective softness of human experience. The wind carries no answers, only presence. And sometimes presence is the most soothing teacher of all. The traveler inhales deeply, letting the cool air fill his chest, knowing that he is part of something much larger and much kinder than he realized.
The traveler comes across a lone footprint facing the opposite direction of their path. At first, it looks out of place, but the longer they observe it, the more meaningful it becomes. The footprint seems to suggest that at some point, someone turned around, perhaps to reflect, perhaps to reconsider, perhaps to revisit something left behind. The traveler studies it, realizing that turning back is not failure, it is intention. It means someone cared enough to reconsider their direction. The footprint teaches that progress is not always forward and wisdom is not always ahead. Sometimes revisiting a moment, a thought, or a feeling is exactly what the journey calls for. The traveler bows their head slightly in respect to the unknown person who once stood here, honoring their courage to move backward when needed. Then they continue walking, carrying the footprint's quiet lesson. Direction is not as important as awareness. A soft sound rises beneath the traveler's feet, a whisper-like shift, subtle and rhythmic. They kneel, placing their palm on the surface, and the sand moves gently under their hand, as if something alive beneath it is breathing. Not a creature, but the earth itself. The whisper feels ancient, patient, and entirely unconcerned with the rushes of human life. And the traveler realizes The ground has always been speaking. We are just usually too loud to hear it. Tonight, in stillness, the traveler hears the earth exhale, a reminder to soften their own breath, to ease their own tension, to allow themselves the peace of simply existing. They rise slowly, grateful for a message that required no words, only quietness. And they continue forward with a new softness in their steps, as though guided by the heartbeat of the earth itself. As the traveler moves deeper into the desert, they notice that there is no clear trail ahead. The sand lies untouched, pristine, without hints of direction. Each step they take creates the path in real time. Nothing exists before it is walked. At first, this feels unsettling, but soon it becomes freeing. The traveler realizes they are not following a predetermined route, they are shaping it. Every step becomes a gentle declaration, I am here now. And something inside them relaxes, understanding that life doesn't always present the path first. Sometimes the path appears only when we trust enough to move. The traveler walks with newfound confidence, not loud, not bold, but quietly assured. For the first time, they feel the deep truth that uncertainty is not a barrier, but an open invitation to create. And the desert welcomes them with every new footprint. The traveler looks up and sees the sky appearing lower than before, as though the universe has gently bent down to meet them. The stars feel closer, the moon seems warmer, the darkness more intimate than vast. The traveler realizes this shift is not in the sky, but in themselves. They have quieted enough, softened enough, slowed down enough that distance no longer feels like separation. It feels like connection. The sky is not above them. It is around them, holding them, wrapping them in the quiet fabric of night. The traveler feels an unexpected emotion, gratitude, not for anything specific, but for existing in a world that meets us halfway when we stop trying to outrun it. They breathe deeply, letting the closeness of the universe settle onto their shoulders like a comforting blanket.
Far on the horizon, a faint hint of dawn begins to stir. Just a thin glow, not enough to change the darkness, only enough to be noticed. The traveler watches it with calm acceptance, realizing something important. Dawn is coming, but it is not in a hurry. It does not demand the traveler move faster or prepare themselves. It simply exists, patient and steady. The traveler feels relief in that subtle glow, understanding that new beginnings do not need to rush. They arrive when the night is ready to go. The traveler continues walking through the soft darkness, knowing dawn will meet them gently when its time arrives. And as the desert night holds them a little longer, the traveler feels something rare, a harmony between where they are and where they are going, without tension between the two. As the traveler continues moving through the quiet desert night, they notice how the horizon remains exactly where it always has been, far, steady, and untouched. They realize they have been walking toward it for hours, yet it never grows closer. And instead of feeling frustration, a strange sense of relief floods through them. The horizon doesn't expect them to reach it. It doesn't pull them, judge them, or measure their progress. It simply exists as a constant companion. The traveler slows their steps and allows this truth to settle deeply inside. Not every destination is meant to be reached. Some exist only to give us direction, not completion. They realize how often they have pressured themselves to arrive, as if peace exists somewhere far ahead, waiting. But tonight, as they stand beneath the moonlit sky, they understand that the journey itself is the quiet classroom. The horizon does not need their arrival to be meaningful. It is already whole. The traveler breathes in this gentle lesson, letting their shoulders drop, letting time soften, knowing they are allowed to move without chasing. A short while later, the traveler pauses at the base of a tall dune. The desert air is so still that they feel compelled to test its silence. They speak, a single thought whispered into the night. And after a breath, the echo returns, but not as a mirror. It comes back softer, calmer, as though the desert itself filtered the rough edges from their voice. The traveler closes their eyes, realizing the world sometimes improves what we offer it. Harsh thoughts return gentler. Heavy feelings return lighter. Even the sharpest fears come back with softened corners when released instead of concealed. The traveler repeats their whisper, letting it drift outward like a feather. And again, the echo returns, quiet, warm, merciful. It feels like a reminder that not everything we release comes back to harm us. Sometimes it comes back healing us. The traveler rests a hand on their chest, letting the softened echo settle into their breathing, reminding them that life often holds more kindness than they assume.
As the traveler moves deeper into the dunes, the night air grows cooler, brushing against them like a gentle tide. With each step, they feel something else shifting, not in the sand, but inside themselves. Old weight begins to loosen, not through force, but through the quiet permission of the moment. The traveler realizes they have been carrying invisible burdens, expectations, regrets, unfinished thoughts that they never questioned. And strangely, the desert night feels wide enough to hold them all without effort. The traveler stops walking and simply stands, allowing the darkness to pool around them like a soft ocean. The stars seem to blink in rhythm with their breath. It feels as though the night itself is silently taking what the traveler no longer has the strength to hold, not stealing it, not erasing it, just holding it long enough for the traveler to breathe again. Tears form unexpectedly, not from sadness, but relief, a release that has been waiting for a moment just like this, when the world is quiet enough to listen without asking anything in return. When the traveler begins walking again, they notice something new. Their footsteps wander slightly, not straight, not planned. They curve gently, as though the sand itself is guiding them toward a path they didn't consciously choose. At first, they try to correct it, but after a moment, they let go and simply follow where their feet naturally wish to land. The traveler realizes how often they have forced themselves into directions that aligned with expectation rather than desire. But here, under a quiet sky with no witnesses and no pressure, their body knows where it wants to go. Their steps lead them toward a long, soft ridge of sand that reflects the moonlight in a silver band. The traveler feels pulled not by duty, but by curiosity.
And in this simple shift, they understand something long resisted. Life often reveals the path when we stop gripping the map so tightly. Footsteps sometimes know more than thoughts, and tonight the traveler trusts them fully. A deep, expansive silence surrounds the traveler as they climb the glowing ridge. But this silence doesn't feel empty. It feels alive, attentive, almost affectionate. It's the kind of silence that doesn't isolate, but embraces. The traveler realizes how rare this feeling is, silence that feels like companionship rather than absence. They sit at the ridge's peak, letting the wind wrap around them gently, and close their eyes. Thoughts drift in and out, but none linger harshly. The silence absorbs them, softens them, allows them. The traveler remembers countless moments in their life when silence felt heavy, awkward, or punishing. Yet tonight, this silence feels like the simplest form of companionship, one that demands nothing and offers everything. The traveler places a hand on the sand beside them, as if acknowledging the presence of a quiet friend. And in this stillness, something inside them feels understood without a single word being spoken.
Sitting under the moon, the traveler notices their breathing shift. It becomes deeper, slower, more honest. For the first time in a long time, they are not performing their breath, they are listening to it. The inhale arrives like a tide, steady and full. The exhale leaves gently, unforced. And with each breath, the traveler feels more anchored in their body, more rooted in the present moment. Breathing becomes a conversation rather than a necessity. The desert night responds with cool air, filling the traveler's chest with clarity that doesn't need explanation. They begin to understand that breath isn't just survival, it is communication between the body and the world. Tonight, that conversation feels fluent, smooth, healing. The traveler stays still for a long time, breathing not to calm themselves, but because the breath itself feels like a teacher, gently revealing, this is what it feels like to be here, fully. The traveler opens their eyes and watches a grain of sand slide down the dune, a movement so small it might be ignored by anyone else. But they observe it as if it were a quiet miracle. The grain moves simply because it does, not for purpose, not for symbolism, not for meaning. And in that tiny motion, the traveler realizes something profound. Not every moment needs to be significant to be beautiful. They have spent years analyzing, interpreting, trying to extract lessons from everything. But some moments exist only to be experienced. The grain of sand rolls to a stop, perfectly ordinary, perfectly present. And for the first time, the traveler feels the freeing truth that life doesn't need constant interpretation. Some things are allowed to simply be, and so are they. Far across the desert, the traveler notices a faint glimmer, subtle and distant, barely more than a suggestion of illumination. At first, they feel compelled to rush toward it, imagining it might be the end of the night, a signal of something tangible. But as they walk slowly, they realize the light waits patiently, never pulling, never demanding attention. It does not matter how quickly or slowly the traveler approaches, the glow exists independent of effort or timing. The traveler feels a soft relief. Not everything requires pursuit. Some lights shine for us even when we are unaware, waiting quietly until we are ready to notice. They pause and breathe in the night air, letting the light's gentle patience sink into their chest. The desert hush amplifies the lesson presence itself is a kind of guidance, far more reliable than speed or striving. And the traveler continues, confident that the path forward can unfold in its own rhythm.
And now, as the night settles fully around you, let your breath become as unhurried as the desert wind that has carried each moment of this journey. You've walked through sand that remembered you, listened to winds that asked nothing of you, and followed a path that revealed itself only when you slowed enough to see it. Whatever footsteps you made tonight do not need to last forever. They have served their purpose simply by being here, by grounding you in presence, by reminding you that not every mark must remain to have meaning. Allow every part of your body to soften, like dunes relaxing into the quiet curve of night. Let the rhythm of your heart fall into harmony with the stillness around you, a gentle beat in an infinite landscape. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go, no path you must choose right now. The journey has already brought you exactly where you need to be, here, in this breath, in this moment of slowing, in this tender space where thought dissolves into calm. Feel the last echoes of the story fade like warm embers drifting into the cool air. The desert holds you without demand. The moon watches over you without judgment, and the silence welcomes you with open arms, reminding you that rest is not an interruption of your path. It is part of it. You are safe to let go now. You are safe to drift. You are safe to fall into the softness waiting beneath your thoughts. Thank you for traveling this gentle path tonight, for allowing the story to guide you into stillness, and for giving yourself the peace you often give away to the world. May your breath stay slow. May your mind stay light. May your dreams arrive like quiet lanterns floating over a calm river. Good night from Sleepy Zen Story.